All right, guys, welcome back to the Mindset Effect podcast. This is episode 31, I believe. That's
Yep.
correct. Okay, episode 31. Yeah, just first of all, thank you to everyone that's been subscribed or, has subscribed. And, just thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. And just like we said in previous episodes, right? Like, the whole goal of this podcast is to really just bring awareness of the mindset shift that's needed to, I guess, live a better life, live a more fulfilling life. And we really don't want you guys to be listening to every episode. Just like we want you guys to be, listening for inspiration and then just taking action on whatever needs to be done. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Um, yeah, today our topic is going to be about the mindset of great leaders and having that leadership mindset. And I guess the first point to address is the fact that, every company either becomes bigger or smaller or goes bankrupt because of their leadership. And I think this is so important because when I invest in stocks, one of the pillars I look at before I determine if I want to go in on a stock is, do I like their leadership? Do I like the team behind it? Right? Like, because if you have a leadership that is just constantly making a lot of short-term strategical moves that really aren't beneficial towards the long term, it's probably not a stock you want to invest in. And so leaders definitely do matter. And I think one really good example I can point to is IBM. Like at one point, IBM was almost like Enron. They were like almost bankrupt, but luckily, I think they appointed Lou something, Lou Jur. I forget his name. But they hired a new CEO to lead IBM, and I guarantee, it was his leadership that really focused on the customer and cultivating the growth mindset that made his company grow exponentially over the years. And another good company, Blockbuster, right? Like Blockbuster, is a huge example of why they aren't as big as Netflix today. And, wait, does Blockbuster do they still exist?
I feel like they went out of business, but I'm not entirely sure.
Blockbuster. Oh, they did. Yeah. So they ceased operations 2010. Yeah. So yeah, Blockbuster. Perfect reason why leadership matters. Like, they're not in business anymore, and that's because the leader they had at the time didn't have the foresight to see that Netflix would eventually become something really huge. They stuck to the traditional ways of renting movies instead of online streaming, and I think that's where they fell apart.
Wait, what year did you see what year Blockbuster went out of business?
It's in September 2010. That's when they ceased
Yeah.
operations.
Okay, so I don't think it was Netflix. I think it was I'm not entirely sure, but maybe Redbox. But I don't know. There's
No,
probably a
I think it was
mixture of other
Netflix. They had
companies.
the opportunity to buy Netflix, but they didn't.
Really? Wait, how
Yeah,
how
their
old is
CEO at the time,
Netflix?
they're pretty old, I think.
I'm googling this. Netflix. Oh wow, Netflix was created in 1997. Holy shit!
Yeah,
I
they're
did
pretty
not
old.
realize that it was that old. Wow. Yeah, but yeah,
A
it's
lot of
just
these companies like Amazon, they were created freaking long time ago, and they only
mhm.
got big recently. So
Yeah, but it's really funny because people they always talk about, you'll see this all the time on how leaders should act, whatever. But it's it's always dependent on your company culture. There are cultures for certain companies where yes, it's great to be nice to everyone. And there are cultures where people will go in knowing that they're going to get absolutely trashed, but you have a leader that's really pushing you. Because you look at Elon Musk, if people like Gary Vee are right in that the best businesses are ones where people are super nice, then Elon Musk would never have gone anywhere, and Steve Jobs with Apple would have never gone anywhere because they treat their employees like shit. And so it's just it really depends, I think, on that aspect. But I think with the whole thing with Blockbuster, a lot of the leadership there comes down to trying new things and innovating. Because you get a lot of leaders, especially in the corporate world. My brother works for Microsoft, and he always complains that there are certain people who will resist change, especially the project managers, because those are the people that are taking the risk if they try something new. So like if you want to build a new feature, they're more likely to say no because they don't want to risk trying something and it failing, because if it fails, then they might get fired for it. But it's so funny because like you look at companies like Amazon. Jeff Bezos is like, dude, like I've had billions of dollars worth of failures. He's like, you just have to try random stuff. And it's like, you never know what's going to be the next big thing. Like, AWS and like Amazon cloud stuff. Like had they never tried that, Amazon wouldn't be nearly as big as it is today. And it's like, same with Microsoft and like Azure. It's like, you've got to try these new things. You got to expect you're going to have a lot of failures that might cost billions of dollars. But like the reality is if you keep trying new things, they're probably eventually going to find at least one thing that makes up all of the cash for all of those. Like I'm pretty sure AWS by itself probably makes up for almost all of Amazon's failures they've had.
I don't think trying is the solution. Like, just keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. That's not the solution. You're gonna go bankrupt doing that. I swear to God.
No,
A
well,
lot
like
of the
I
times,
think.
a lot of these times, these companies they don't just try. They take controlled. They take these risks, but like they know like if we fail, like this is how much we're gonna lose. And so it's more controlled risk for them. They know how much they're gonna lose if they fail, and so they're okay with that. And so you have to just realize, if I'm gonna do something and I should like you have to be aware of the risks of um, not the not the risk, but you have to be aware of the consequences of failing if you do take a risk, and just be aware that hey, if I fail, like I'm okay accepting these consequences.
Yeah, it's like so the reality of big business is large corporations never go bankrupt because of competition with other large organizations. They always go bankrupt because of startups. And it's like, how did like Ford and like how did these other companies let Tesla happen? How did um how did Google let Netflix happen? Like how did all of these other companies let these things come along? Like the predecessor to Amazon. Like how did they let Amazon come along? And so it's like, big companies never take out other big companies. It's always the small companies who innovate. And so it's like, trying the new things and innovating is the best line of defense for a big company, because like if you get too stuck in this is working right now, we're just going to stick with it, you'll have a competitor that comes along and innovates on something, and then before you know it, you'll be out of business because everyone will go to them. And so it's like you really do have to try a lot, and it's like you will have lots of failures that cost a ton, but you also might have things that do really well. And it's like obviously there are some, you have to be careful about trying stuff, but like you should try more things, because like you will eventually, if you try enough things, have something that makes up for the cost of all of the other ones. Because again, like you'll never get taken out by another big company. You'll always get taken out by startups or other small companies, because those are the ones that are innovating, because it's the innovation that'll draw the customer base.
Yeah, like we said, I think one of the previous episodes, like don't say try, just do. Because when you say try, it's
Mm-hmm.
like sort of that middle line between trying and yeah, it's sort of that middle line between doing and not doing, right? So don't
Yeah.
try, just do. And because when you say you try, like you like most of the times you're probably not going to do whatever you say you're going to try, you're going to do. So you might as well just start doing now. Like start
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't have to be like actually doing whatever you want to do right now, but at least making a sort of plan to do what you're going to do and then executing the next day. So at
Yeah.
least doing something that's going to like put your foot one step closer to the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I do think a large part of it is just semantics, but like, I do think it's important. Like, if you're a company or an individual, it's like, never say you're going to do something without actually like putting on the calendar or like on the to-do list or something. It's like, even like, I don't remember what the number is, but like 40% of things that go on the to-do list never actually get done if they don't get scheduled or something. And so it's like, make sure that you actually time block, some, an hour for whatever you want to do or something. It's like, when Kevin and I had the idea for the recruiting firm, it's like by the end of that day, we'd already gotten started on stuff. And so it's like, you've got to just get started. And yeah, it's like, don't try, actually take action on stuff. But yeah, and I think
Yeah,
that's another
we
big
like
thing.
we also preach time blocking, and we think it's a really great it's a really effective way to be more efficient at working. And if you guys want to learn about it, just go buy the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. Really good book. It goes really in depth about the psychology behind time blocking and the nuances behind it. So it's a pretty good read.
Or if you're like me and don't like reading books, then just
Or you
Watch a
can just
YouTube
go
video
online
on
and watch a
it.
YouTube video. Yeah.
Or just
I
start
prefer the
time
read. I like
blocking.
reading. Or just start time blocking.
Yeah, reading's such a waste of time though.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the biggest like complaints about it is like it's not flexible. Like you block this amount of time, but what if you want to go over, right? Like just read the book. It's very flexible. You can choose just read the book. Okay. It's
Something
pretty
so
flexible.
Something that's really been important for me is like to schedule stuff way before I need them done. So like I might schedule like 3 hours to get like a homework assignment done. And like if I don't get it done, it's not like the end of the world because I can just schedule another 3 hours like the next day or
What is
something.
that term? There's
So
a
it's
term
like
for that where like if you have a due date that's like 3 weeks later, like you probably wouldn't do it until like the last few days or last week. There's a term for that. I don't know the term. Do you know the term?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I just do think that it's important to like get stuff done early.
Early,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and so like honestly, this kind of ties back to leadership in a way, but it's like I think from what I've learned, one of the biggest things to do as a leader is to really do what you preach, and also something that Gary Vee always says is like never expect somebody else who isn't a leader to work as hard as you. But I do think you have to set the example. You need to work hard so that your employees are driven and pushed, especially like if you're working with like other co-founders, so that they actually do own part of
I
whatever
think
you're
Elon
doing.
Musk
It's
is
like
a perfect example of someone who
yeah,
works hard and like pushes his workers to work hard as well.
yeah, and it's like you've got to. It's like even if you're not like verbally pushing them, it's like you've got to set the example, because if you are working like 1 hour a week, your employees are not, they're going to look at you and be like, why would I work super hard on this? It's like even if you're getting paid, they're not going to be as motivated. I think something that's really on Elon Musk's side though is that he's got these big lofty goals. Like his companies have a clear why, which is I attribute a lot of his success to those. Is like these are things that you listen to and you're like, I believe in that 100%. And I want that to happen. Like Tesla and turning cars to be more electric. It's like that's something that people want for the environment, and like getting humans to Mars. These are all big goals that are ambitious and audacious and that people want to see happen. And
So
so I
you're
think
saying that the why is really important.
I think so.
To
That's what I've always said is I think one of the reasons that Elon Musk is able to do so well is he's got companies that have super big whys. Like most companies, it's just like oh, maybe we're innovating on something. Maybe we're not even innovating on something and we're just starting like our own media company or something. And it's just like every other media company. It's like, there's a big difference there because one of these has something that's like, I truly believe like this can change the world. And like you inspire people because of that mission. Like Elon Musk can go into a meeting and be like, I want to put humans on Mars. And all of his workers are going to be like, this sounds amazing. Let's do it. I want to be part of history. But like for most companies, it's like, I want to build this app. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like, there's such a difference in inspiration there.
But I feel inspiration is temporary. Like a lot of people, they can feel inspired by something, but they won't take action.
I,
How do you think Elon
I,
Musk makes people take action on
I really think a lot of it is just words. People always talk about things being temporary. The reality is all of this stuff is a habit. Like inspiration, motivation, whatever, it's all habits. It's if you get out of the habit of being inspired or being motivated or being driven, then it's gonna be hard to get back on it. And it's like in reality, people don't look at things as habits, but like almost anything we do is a habit. Waking up every day is kind of a habit. And it's like if you want to, I talk about this all the time. There's always that moment, like you sit down to watch TV, you have that split second of that you should go and do something else. And like that moment defines everything, because like that moment is like I know what I should be doing and I'm choosing to either do it or to not do it. You'll get in the habit of making that choice each time. So this is something that's really helped me is like, when you have that moment, you're just like, no, I need to stay true to me. I need to go up and do something. Or like you wake up early in the morning and it's not just that it's
well, that's
hard to get out of bed.
Hold on, dude. That's because you have like really strong willpower. You have like
Uh,
insanely strong willpower. Like
No, it's honestly,
if we talk about the average person, if we talk about a lot of our viewers, a lot of people out there, like if they sit down to watch YouTube or Netflix, there's a high chance that even if they tell themselves, "Hey, I should not be watching Netflix right now," they will still keep watching it because they don't have as high of a tolerance as we do, so we have to be aware of that, I think.
It's not willpower.
It is
It's
willpower.
this
It takes a
isn't
lot of
no
willpower
this
to
isn't this
to
isn't
shift your mind
something.
from something like high dopamine, like watching YouTube, to something low dopamine, like doing like an essay or something. It takes a
It's
lot of willpower.
discipline.
It is discipline, yes.
There's no limit to willpower. It's discipline, and you build up the habit of being disciplined. And it's like the
Mhm.
reality. This is what I always say: is like people look for shortcuts, or they use, "Oh, I've limited willpower" as an excuse. It's like no. It's like you're just deciding to not do what you need to do, and it's like every time it's like you know what you need to do, you are choosing not to do it. If you aren't
Andrew,
rich,
no,
you're
it is
choosing not
limited
to be
willpower,
rich.
dude. All right,
No,
let me
it's
ask you a
not.
question. You're a night. Do you make better decisions at night or worse decisions at night?
Honestly, I think at night I tend to do better.
Okay, I'm telling you, most people at night, like, they make worse decisions because their willpower is like pretty limited. Like, they've used a lot in the daytime doing work and stuff, and at night, like they're more susceptible to like more shallow activities, like playing games or watching YouTube, because you'd rather just relax at that point. You know what I'm saying?
That's not willpower, it's just energy. And if you take a nap in the middle of the day, you're going to solve that problem really quick. Like there are so many different ways to get around like being tired or stuff like that, or like having caffeine. And it's like, there's never a point that you get to where once I reach this limit of willpower, I can never make a right decision after that. Like there's not a limit to that. It's like you are in the moment and you decide. And that decision is an individual decision that you make each time. There's no limit of once you get to this, you can't do anything right. Because if that was true, then it'd be like, every single person who works incredibly hard would like just drop off at a certain time. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. And this is what I would say is like, imagine that you have a test the next day, like a midterm or something in like a math class. And you can either sleep and get up, you can like either sleep and just like get up and take the test and whatever, you'll be well rested, or you can stay up the whole night and study and then just try to take the test while you're tired. And it's like the reality is if you go to sleep, you have no chance of learning the information that you didn't learn. And so it doesn't matter if you're more well rested and you can think clearer. If you don't know the information, you don't know the information. But like if you stay up the whole night, yes, you're going to be tired. You might make some silly mistakes, but you'll have learned a little bit of the extra knowledge that you need to know, because there's no chance of me knowing how to take an integral or something if I haven't actually studied that. And so if I stay up and I study that, I might be tired during the test, but I still will actually know the information, because if I don't study it, there's no way for me to know it. And so I'm
Dude, I'm
by
totally
default
opposite
going
of
to do
you.
worse.
I always prioritize to sleep first, and then I wake up in the morning if I need to study, early in the morning to study, and then take the test. But
I'll do a
I think
mixture.
let me just be honest. Right? I think all the studies point to the fact that if you are cramming stuff the day before a test, right? They say it's better to study a bit at the nights to get your brain primed to the material, and when you sleep, I don't know what the fuck happens, but unconsciously, I guess the material you reviewed like sort of gets like primed in your brain, and when you wake up the next morning, you start studying, it's much more efficient. And when you take the test, you remember more. That's just what all the studies say. So I
That's
would
what
agree
they
with the studies.
that's what they might say, but that's for long term. Like you don't need long term. Like long term knowledge doesn't
It's not
matter
long. I'm
if
talking
you
about
have a
cramming.
test the next
I'm
day.
literally talking about cramming. When you sleep the day, when you study a bit the day before, and then you sleep, like your brain just gets primed to remember a lot.
Well, obviously, but I'm talking about if you're at the point where like it is that night and you're deciding whether or not to stay up all night or just like go to bed and take the test in the morning.
I would go
Like,
to bed
well,
because
like
when you wake up in the morning, you can study much more efficiently. Like you are like when you study in the morning, like your brain is just it's much more you retain much more information. Like you learn much quicker. Like you're
yeah,
more focused in the morning.
yes, but it depends on like the time that you have. So like if you're like I literally can't take, if I spend 30 minutes sleeping, then I'm going to miss out on a lot of information that I need to know. Like then like sometimes I've had it where I'm like pushed up against the wall where it's like I cannot sleep at all tonight because I need to study. And it's like at that point, no matter how much sleep you get, you're never going to learn the knowledge. Like you have to actually study it. And so it's like,
Well, why are you even in that position in the first place?
well, yeah, exactly. But I'm
Yeah,
saying
you
like if
should you
you
should be
are not.
you, your first step should be not putting yourself in that position. And
Yeah,
then
but I think if you do, then there's nothing you can do to change it. And so
yeah,
like
okay, I agree with that.
Well,
Yeah,
we totally went off.
I've never been in that situation, so I wouldn't know what to say about that.
Yeah, well, I unfortunately have been in that situation multiple times. I put so many all-nighters this year.
Yeah, pretty
Luckily,
bad
it's
for your
better
health. Pretty
now.
bad for your long-term health. So
Yeah, it's terrible, but like, it's kind of necessary for what I'm trying to do. So, whatever. And honestly,
you can
it's
be more
like,
efficient, Andrew. I'm telling you, you can be like way more efficient. I think you're sacrificing a bunch of health that's not needed. You know.
honestly, it's like the last few years of your life are probably going to be spent in like a hospital anyway. And so I'm just like, if I have to die a little bit early and it's like all that time would be spent in a hospital anyway, then like, it's not even living if you're restricted to a hospital bed. So I'm just like, whatever. I would rather, give it my all, try to achieve everything than not give it my all because I'm worried about health and then never end up actually accomplishing what I want to accomplish. But that's just me personally.
I think it's just efficiency. Like you can work hard all you want, but you got to be efficient about it. You have to be smart about it. And I don't think working 18 hours, 20 hours a day, drinking a shit ton of caffeine is a smart thing to do. I really don't
I
think so.
mean,
Anyway, let's get back to topic. Let's get
there are
back to
plenty
topic.
of there. Well, this goes to the leadership thing. There are plenty of people who say that, but if you look at like Elon Musk or like Steve Jobs or people that do work 24/7, they are massively productive. And so it's like, I think it's probably just goes down to the individual. Um, but yeah, it's because there are definitely
True.
people that can do it. But I think you never really know if you can do it or not until you try it and actually push yourself through it. So
Yeah, I think it's
I don't.
just I think every person has their level of tolerance, right? I'm not okay with me, sacrificing a shit ton of health just to work like 3, 4 hours extra a day productivity. I would not do that. So I think it depends on the person, right? Like a lot of the advice you give, like you shouldn't take it at face value. You should really think about it, apply it to your own life, and see is this right for me, or try to
Mm,
you know tweak it to fit your own life. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
Advice is always catered towards an individual.
yeah. Yeah, but I think the one thing that does remain true is like you'll never get something without working for it. And so like you can
Definitely.
never expect to become, I don't know, a billionaire if you aren't working to get there. You can never expect your startup to go
Unless you're
anywhere.
born a billionaire.
Yeah, but like that's kind of different. But yeah, and then so it's just like, you know, hard work is the equalizer. It's like, if you outwork other people, you will do better than them.
Okay, I agree with that. Yeah.
So
It's just like what
it's
Elon
like
Musk says. If you work like 100 hours a week and someone else works 50 hours a week, like you'll probably get twice, 3 times the amount of work done
mhm.
as they do in a given year.
Exactly. There's such a misconception that it's like, oh, you hit this limit, and then after that, you just can't do anything productive. And I was like, from my experience, that's very not true. I'm pretty sure, like I don't know. I look at every moment as an individual moment. But
So
I don't
I
know.
don't think it's you can't be productive. I think the productivity levels are decrease. So it's like the chart is like you start working in the day and your productivity goes all the way up to the peak, and then once you reach a certain amount, like 3, 4 hours of like actual productivity, like the hours spent working afterwards, um, are like at a lower productivity. So if
I
you're
mean, I
working
think.
at so if you're working at 100% efficiency after like at 3 hours, before 3 hours, after that like 3 to 4, 5, 6, like you're gonna be working at 90% efficiency, 80%, 70%, 60%. So it's that concept. Not like you
Mhm.
can't be efficient. It's just like it's
Yeah.
lower.
Well, like I've gotten arguments with people about it, but it's just like, I see that, but at the same time, if I'm still being at least minorly productive, then I'm still getting more done than the other person is. And so it's like, I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, so I think this all just like ties back to the leadership thing of like, you have to set the example as a leader. It's like, you've got to work super hard if you want your employees or co-founders or whoever to work hard. Like there's no way to get around that. It's like, if you want people to work hard, you've got to set the example. Because nobody wants to work incredibly hard for somebody who isn't actually working hard themselves. I think I've talked about
Yeah,
this
yeah.
before. Like
So
there was
I
this,
think
there's this. You got.
Yeah, so I think so leadership is like really important because I think one of the biggest measures is influence, right? And
Mhm.
like just because you're given a leadership role doesn't mean like things are gonna like happen in your org immediately. Like if you're given the title CEO, like there's probably gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna recognize you, right? So you have to gain respect and loyalty from your workers and coworkers. And you do that through working hard. Do that through like setting an example for them.
Yeah, I think the getting people to respect you is such an important thing about like being a leader. leader. And it's like, I think that's where like the whole like being nice thing comes in. But like if you produce insane results, people will look at it and be like, he's insane. Like I respect that. And so like I think there are a multitude of ways to gain respect, but like, pushing out insane results, actually being nice for people and caring for them and showing them respect, all of those are like ways to gather the respect. But like that is imperative to being a good leader, is to have people that respect you.
Definitely. What do you think of self-leadership? Fuck my voice.
What do you mean?
Like accountability and personal improvements. Like because I
Mhm.
think Michael Jordan he once said that he works harder on himself than anyone else would ever expect, and I think it's that sort of mentality that I think a great leader needs to have. Like you have to ask yourself, how do I make myself better? How do I constantly improve? Um, and adapt with the changes that are going on. Because
Yeah.
I think it's really easy for I think it's really easy to look at other people's blind spots, but it's so difficult to see our own. I don't know why it is. Like there's definitely a lot of psychology involved with that. Like it's
Mhm.
super weird. Like we can easily debug other people's stress, but when it comes to our own stress or our own problems, like we're just like, what the fuck? It's very
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I think that's kind of, that'll really, like, getting a handle on that can really increase the whole, like, respect kind of thing. It's like, people respected Kobe so much because of how hard he would work, because he could, like, tell what his flaws were and he would work on them to improve them. And so, like, I think, you can't expect anyone to respect you if you don't respect yourself. You can't expect anyone to try to improve themselves if you're not improving yourself around them, as in like a leadership position. And so again, it comes back to like setting the example. But yeah, it's like utilize habits. Like this is what I'll always say. It's like so much of who we can become is because of habits. If you're not scheduling stuff, like that's going to be a really big detriment. I think it's like you got to get in the habit of scheduling stuff, like in the habit of just getting up immediately in the morning, the habit of working out every day at the same time, the habit of like all these small things that you want to hit. If you want to become bigger on LinkedIn, set a habit of like 30 minutes a day just on LinkedIn to go through hashtags and comment on people's stuff, like engage with the community. It's like you have to set up habits for whatever you want. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger,
And
when
it's these habits and the small actions that you take every day that ultimately gonna help make you better at whatever
Mhm.
craft that you want to get better at.
Yeah, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He would talk about like when he was trying to transition from like bodybuilding to acting, he would spend like 5 hours a day on like taking acting classes. And so it's just like you set aside time, aka time block, and then you focus 100% on that individual thing for that amount of time. That's why that's why I hate time blocking so hard. Is like time blocking is super important for this. Is like you just set the time and then you're like, for this amount of time I'm just going to do this. When I got good at coding when I was younger, that's like what I would do, is like 4 a.m. until school, that's what I'm gonna do every day, is code. And so it's like over time that really makes a big difference. You can't expect to just code for 12 hours and then expect to be amazing after that. It's like, but if you do it over time, it'll really build up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people they hear this advice and they do it and they just give up. They'll do it for like a month
Yeah.
and they'll see no results and they'll give up. I think the
Yeah.
key thing, yeah. So I think the key thing is you have to be aware of the expected time frame of getting better at something, right? So I think a good baseline is college student. How long would it take a college student to learn this? Like, so example, like program language. How long would it take a college student to learn Java and build a Java application, right? And give yourself the time frame, and basically you should be fine during that time frame of like say like takes like you think it's going to take them like 3-4 months to actually learn this and build an app. Like you have to be okay 4 months that like, hey, this 4 months like it's okay if I feel like if I still can't build the app because there's that learning curve. You have to be aware of the learning curve and don't give up too easily. If you feel the
Hmm.
goal, if you feel like what you are setting out to do is worthy of actually putting in a lot of time, I think just sticking with it and doing it is perfect. Like
Yeah.
especially reading. Like a lot of people they think like reading 5 pages like a day like doesn't do anything. It really does. It builds the habit of you reading. And once you do build that habit, like it becomes so much easier to read more pages. I remember I think like beginning of college, like I started to read more books and books, and basically I would read like 10 pages like at night, and it just became so much easier to like read more pages, the next
Hmm.
week and the next month. And it's that habit helps you really lower the willpower involved in actually doing the task and helps you focus more on the task itself.
Yeah, I think you have to tell yourself that there is no alternative, literally no matter what. Like I've said this before, like at OSU, there were days where I would be like, no matter what, I'm getting all of these things done. And I would go to the gym at like 11 p.m. and have to wake up at 2 a.m. the next day. And it's just like, you have to get yourself in the mindset of, I cannot take an off day because like, sometimes you might miss a day, but like it
I don't think
honestly
there's
is
anything wrong
very,
with an off day, but
I think it
it's
has to be something that's scheduled
yeah,
because
it's
if you're,
scheduled.
if
It's like
you,
what Ava
yeah,
said. Like you have to be okay. Like, hey, this day I'm not going to do anything. If
yeah,
you're not okay
yeah.
with that, and just if you don't schedule anything, like you will go into the day feeling like shit. You will like
Hmm.
actually feel like shit.
Yeah, but like it's super dangerous to break habits. Like I've said this before, like there were days where like if I didn't wake up before him that day, 2 months later I still wouldn't be doing it. And so it's like you have to set like if you're going to break the habit for like it has to be like a day that you schedule and be like just for this day, but after that I'm getting back on it. Because like if you teach yourself, oh, it's okay if I, don't get up early this day, then that's what's going to be inputted in your head and you're going to just believe that. And so from then on, it's going to be like, oh, it's perfectly fine if I miss this day. And then the next day, it's like, oh, it's okay if I miss this day. And the next day, oh, it's okay if I miss this day. And it's like that'll keep compounding until months later, you've still broken the habit. And so, like, if you break the habits at all, it has to be scheduled. Like, no matter
Mm.
if you're losing tons of sleep, like, you've got to stay true to your habits because, like, breaking them once, it breaks them forever. And so, like, that's why a lot of these,
This is especially more important when you are starting out making a new
mhm,
habit.
yeah,
Um, I think as you get more used to habits, you can schedule, like you have to schedule stuff to skip stuff. But I think as you get more experience, like even if you do skip it, like it's fine because like there's a high likelihood that you're still gonna get back to that habit just
yeah.
because of how long you've been doing it for.
Yeah, and it's
Like
like you can,
I can skip going to the gym for like a few days. I can still go back like after a few days.
yeah,
Like there's no willpower involved with that because I'm just so used to going to the gym.
yeah. But I think it definitely, it's like that's something that you've got to really, it's like keep habits on because like, you miss it's like you look at these people who make New Year resolutions and they'll go for like, 2 weeks or something and they'll break the habit one day and the rest of the year they don't go. And so it's like, you've got to set the habits and don't break them unless you're scheduling. Like you're scheduling like one day a week, I'm just not going to go to the gym, or like 2 days a week, I'm not going to go to the gym or something. It's like every other day other than that, like you've got to keep to the schedule and like actually
Yeah,
not
so
break it.
scheduling is important, but I think being smart about it is also important. And you have to ask yourself, how can I make this habit easier for myself to do? If you're going
Hmm.
to the gym, how can I make this easier to do, right? Like I think one of the things you can do is you can call up a friend and be like, hey, you want to go to the gym with me at this time every week? And like just go to the gym with your friend. Like it makes it that much easier.
Hmm.
And so just find ways to make a habit easier for yourself, especially in the short term when you're just starting out, because that's when there's a high entry barrier to start. Because when you start a new habit, like there's always a high entry barrier because of how much time it's going to occupy, or you know, uh, whatever. Yeah, just how much time it's going to occupy in your life.
Yeah, and it's like, just find the this is almost like running a company. It's like find the assumptions, like find what you think is like going to tear you down and then work to remove it before you have to encounter it. Like in the mornings, if you're like in your bed and you're like if you have your phone and that's how you wake up with an alarm or something, like your phone's like right next to you, you can just like get up, turn it off and go back to bed. So like put the phone across the room and like when you wake up you have to get up, sleep in your gym clothes so you have to go and immediately
Smart,
to the
smart.
gym. Like like remove the things that will deter you. And it's like if you need to grind for like these 4 hours, like take your phone, put it in another room, like or just like literally put it outside or something, like somewhere where you can't get it. um and like there are also apps that'll help you with this where like they'll lock your phone for like an hour or something for you to work. I literally downloaded the one like a little bit ago, and then I deleted it because I didn't really need it. But I don't
Let's talk
remember
about
what it's called.
leadership. Let's talk about leadership.
Yeah.
I think another important quality of a leader is I think it's really important to add value to others, and not just to your clients, but also to your workers. And this is where I really disagree with Steve Jobs' approach, right? Like he was like really strict towards his workers and really, yeah, just really strict, and he wasn't really that encouraging from my understanding. And I think being a great leader like involves getting others to think more highly of themselves, so they do feel more confident. They do feel better doing the work that you assign them to do.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome that.
Yeah. And it's like this is what's really funny is actually, so like from my time of running teams, I'll notice like as a leader, how you act will be reflected in how everyone else acts. So they will copy what you do. So like I've had times where if I scolded somebody in a mean way, from then on the culture of the company would be people scolding other people in mean ways. But if I was nice to someone, then like the whole company would be nice to everyone else. And so it's like as the leader, you really do set the culture on things, because it's like you that determines like what's okay and what's not. And it's like culture is super important. And again, like I think you'll always attract who you are. And so like with Elon Musk, he's able to be like super mean to his employees because that's something that's out there, so
Wait,
people
is he
know
super
about
mean?
it.
Is he actually super
he's
mean?
he's harsh. He's
I've never
very
heard that
harsh.
before. I've never
Yeah,
heard that
if you've
before.
worked with him in a room, man, it's because my brother knows some people who have worked with Elon Musk personally, um, and he's very intense. But like, so it's like, if you put that culture out there of like, this is what we're like, and we're going to be straightforward about it. And it's like, you'll attract people who are okay with that and people who can like keep up in that kind of environment. It's like, SpaceX works so fast because, of his culture that he sets. If you set a culture of, oh, we're all lovey-dovey, and like if you miss this day or this work thing, whatever, then like it's okay, then like you will lower the people's standards on your team. Like that is a fact, that'll happen. And so like it really depends on the kind of culture that you want to set. If you want people to be happier but not as productive, like be nicer. If you want people to be insanely productive, like you can really push them. But I think it'll depend on the kind of employees that you hire, because like there's the whole 4-day work week thing that Microsoft apparently tried in like Singapore or something, and that apparently worked really well. But it's like at the same time, you'll get other people who can do way more in 7 days. And so it really depends on the kind of culture that you want to set. But as a leader, that is up to you.
The 4-day work week is actually really interesting. It's because I think the reason behind that is because like people like when you say working 8 hours a day, like guarantee you of that 8 hours, like probably 4 or 5 hours is going to be actually spent working. 3 hours just spent dozing off, doing whatever the fuck you're doing, like watching YouTube or something else. So I think it's that mentality behind it that like people can't actually work 8 hours. They can't actually work 40 hours a week being productive.
I
So
think it
I
depends
think
on the
it's giving them
person.
the leeway.
I think it depends on the person.
Like,
Because
dude, are you telling me you can work 8 hours straight?
yes, I think you will find a lot of people who can, and you'll find a lot of people who can't. I do think a lot of it's discipline. And like, I guarantee you, Elon Musk, Gary Vee work all day, nonstop. And it's like, sometimes if I need to, I'll take a nap. And that'll help me be energized.
You know what's
But
so
like,
funny? Like when we say work, we don't actually mean work for a lot of these people. Like Elon Musk doesn't. It's not like work to him. Gary Vee, like what
well,
his
I
work
think,
is, it's not. It's really
yeah.
not like work. It's like fun to them, right? So
I think that's the difference. Is like that
difference.
is really, it's like you have to find something that you enjoy, and it's like, because it truly will feel like work. And it's like you can tell if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll be a lot faster at it. Me doing math problems is terrible, and so it takes me forever to actually finish a math assignment. But if I'm doing like something in code, I can finish it a lot faster because I actually enjoy what I'm doing. And so it's like, you really have to enjoy what you're doing. And so trying to find employees or like, associates, whatever, like that actually really enjoy what they do. This is why companies like Google and Microsoft try to hire people who are really passionate, because like those are the ones who are going to be really productive because they love what they're doing. My brother started coding at age 12, and he's coded like probably 8 hours a day plus every single day since then. And so he's fantastic, because it's never felt like work to him. He's always working on side projects. He's always building something new. And so it's like, and if you truly love what you're doing, like it'll be so much easier for you. And so
So
like
is he
you get
ever
a
gonna
lot of
start
these
his own
people.
company? Is he ever gonna start his own
I
company?
don't think he doesn't really like risk, which is really sad because he is very intelligent, very very good at coding, and so it's like he could do amazing things if he would like take the risk, but he's just not super risky. He doesn't like risk at all, and so I doubt it.
No, that's a bad thing. Definitely a bad thing.
Yeah.
I feel like with his talents and with his hard work, he could definitely make
Yeah,
something
well,
out of
like
it.
that's the funny thing is like there are so many people like as leaders too who just like they don't want to take risks. Like as a leader, you have to take risk and you have to be prepared to take all of the shit that goes
Accountability.
along with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like the funny thing is like again, as we were mentioning earlier, like as a leader, everything in the company is your fault. Like if it goes bankrupt, it's your fault. If it
It
succeeds,
is.
it's your fault. And it's like you have to be prepared to get a little bit of attention when things go right, and then you have to be prepared for the whole sky to fall on you when things go bad. And so it's like, 100% accountable. If somebody on your team does shit, it's like, dude, you're the one that hired them. So like, that's your fault. And so, you really have to be 100% accountable for everything. And it's like, nothing will work if you don't. And so like, you've
Yeah,
got
as
to
human
really,
beings, like we tend to have this tendency to blame all the things that happen on others on them rather than ourselves. So just being aware of that.
yeah, it's like, don't blame the system. Don't blame your coworkers. Like blame yourself. It's like
Blame
personal
yourself, and
accountability.
also don't just blame yourself. Try to find out why something happens, right? Try to
Mhm.
debug the issue. Try to really go deep into what actually happened. So
Yeah, it's like, remove distractions, remove any temptations that like, that really harm your day and like what you need to do. Again, it's like if you want to be a billionaire, going out to parties every Friday night probably isn't the best step to get there. And so it's like, if you have to remove friends, which you will, then remove certain friends. Like you're going, there are a lot of things in life that you're going to have to do that are going to be really uncomfortable. And it's like, it's good that you have to go through those, but like, they're not going to be fun at the time. There are a lot of pitches that I did with super intense people where it's just like, this is terrible. It's like, you've got to go through them because like, if you don't,
but it's
you're
good,
not.
right? Like always the like worst first experience, but after it gets better. It's all about
Yeah, it's like our first podcast was
yeah.
absolutely terrible. And like since then they've been way better. And so it's
Mhm.
like, I do think it's like you've got to be able to take a risk and you've got to be able to take all the blame for it. And I think so much of being a leader also is like, again, you have to have you need people to respect you and you need people to look up to you. Like you have to be somebody that they can actually follow. Like I don't remember if you've seen Lord of the Rings or not, but like it
I've seen
or
the
like
entire trilogy.
actually have you seen The Hobbit?
Yes, I've seen
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. So there's like Thorin or something, right? And like he like takes down the Pale Orc or something, and like the dwarves are talking about it, and they're like, "That's when I knew that he was like somebody I could follow." And it's like,
Wait, how do you
I
still
really,
remember this? How the fuck do you remember this?
I don't know. It's just something that was interesting, I guess. But like, and so it's like you've got to do something that people can really believe in. Because if you're just like, oh, I'm a leader, even though I don't do crap, then like people are never going to look up to you. And I think this is why setting the example is so important. And it's like it's super easy for like people like Elon Musk to be leaders because everyone looks up to them at this point. And it's like honestly, the best business magnates that I've ever seen are honestly pretty intense and people very much respect them. Like I remember for Mahendra, I've talked about him at Vora. Like there was a time when Mahendra wanted us kids to go to some event, and we were going to a soccer game. And there was a guy that came up and he's like, please don't go to the game. Please come with us. Because like he was like visibly scared because like Mahendra was so intense. And it's just like, and so it's just funny because like I think to be one of the great leaders you have to be a little bit intense because every business magnate that I've met has been a little bit intense, but yeah,
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I think
I
I
think a
think we
lot
should
of that
wrap this
comes
episode up.
yeah, I think a lot of it comes though from like being confident and stuff in your decisions and
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the advice we gave today. Yeah, it's really catered towards specific people. But you can also try to build yourself up to become that sort of person. Uh, and yeah, just to like touch on a few important points that we talked about, right? Like, first of all, like you have to have the mindset of self improvement, self blame, really just being critical about your own errors and really trying to help your employees and not employees but your peers around you overcome their own shortcomings. trying to make them better. You also really just want to you really want to like fill in the gaps of people around you and your own company, and um, yeah, just add value to others and put these principles in place and just do it over and over, and I think you will find yourself in a good spot.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you guys for listening to this episode. uh, Make sure to check us out on YouTube, because we have a YouTube channel where you can see our
You can
faces
see our pretty
behind,
faces.
yes, behind these
Yeah.
voices. um, Check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and Stitcher, and other major podcasting platforms. And also just give us a review, right? Like, if you guys like what we're saying, like, tell us what you like about it. If you don't, like, give us a review and tell us like what you don't like about it, because we're all trying to improve. And yeah, feedback definitely helps. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya, peeps.